And welcome back to episode 101 of the Weekly Tech Rant with me, Jay.
And me, Carl.
So we are back in what I can only describe is using the latest version of Zencaster. So for those of you who are not aware, Zencaster is a podcast production site where you can record podcasts, video casts, do post-production. It's a great site. Now, we're not on commission. I'll make stress. We're not getting into this.
No, we're
but
not.
They have just updated their product, which functionally remains the same, if I be honest with you. But
It's got dark mode.
It's got dark mode, and it looks a lot nicer, to say the least.
It looks slick, yeah.
And we've got ability to have chat, between the hosts in the messaging. We can have footnotes. It's a great tool. We've been using it now for I think about a year, haven't we? I think.
Maybe longer than that. I know you paid for the premium recently, didn't you? Or
I did,
6 months ago. But we were using the free version before that.
It was. The premium version just gives us some extra bells and whistles, which, to be quite honest with you, is worth the money. And I'm happy to support companies where I see value in the product, because there's too often, software companies where actually I don't need to be paying for this,
Yeah, definitely.
But anyway, we are back this week for a roundup of the latest tech stories. And this week we have a mixture of stories from what I thought was first an airline company, but it isn't. It's a games company, Embracia, who I forgot, through to trade secrets being sold in Apple Car. We're going to talk Bitcoin. We're going to talk UK CMA again. And we're going to talk bizarrely.
No, it's not the UK CMA. It's not the
CMA.
CMA.
It wasn't. It was the business secretary, wasn't it?
Sorry. For once, it's not the CMA.
Sorry, not the CMA. That's what I meant. And we're also going to talk about Janet Jackson. Yes. And heads up, there is an iPhone event coming. I know, shocking. Who would have known it? But yes, there is. And the Tech Rant Rumour Mill is coming back this week too. Oh, and I forgot to say, we have a gaming story as well from our friends at Sony. But let's kick things off this week then, Carl, with the first story of the week from Embracia. I think that's how we're pronouncing it, isn't it?
It is. It's another company that's been on a shopping spree again. Embracer. I think we spoke about them back in May when they bought up Square Enix Western Studios for $300 million. They bought Crystal Dynamics and Eidos and a couple of other bits and pieces. They've just announced they've bought no less than 8 more companies for around £480 million with a deferred payment of $175 million on top later in the year. But we'll start with the big one. So they bought Middle-earth Enterprises, which gives them the rights to J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit properties. Basically, they don't own the original works, but if you want to create a game, a film, a stage play, merchandise based on Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit or any other works there, you have to go speak to them and license it. So
I mean, embrace it. They own a lot. Well, a bucket load of studios. Now, Embracia themselves are a Swedish company, if I remember correctly.
They are, yeah.
But they, as you say, they own actually chunks and chunks of the gaming industry. As you say, multiple. Gearbox are the ones that jump out, isn't it? Gearbox Entertainment, THQ Nordics, are in there as well. But then underneath that, you've got some of the other studios that you've probably been a bit more heard of, haven't they? I'm trying to think of ones that I saw in there was Deep Silver, I think was one of them, wasn't it?
Eidos, Crystal Dynamics for Tomb Raider and stuff like that.
Yeah, so there's lots of names in there that probably people recognise but didn't realise that they were owned by this parent company of Embracia. But quite a lot of game properties there. Lord of the Rings being the big one, if you say that they now can do, and they can clearly make a shed load of money as well, isn't it?
Because there'll be games coming there.
Well, games, video. Well, apparently, can't they? Well, it's not just the games, because they own the rights. They own the company that owns the rights to basically monetize, as you say, everything but the
films, stage plays, merchandise, anything that isn't the original literary works.
So hang on a minute. So that new Lord of the Rings series on Amazon, isn't it?
Yep. They'll be making money out of that one.
I was just going to say, they must be Rings of Power, isn't it? I think that's the one, isn't it? Rings of Power.
That's the one. It's out. Is it next month?
Yes, that's the thing. So I'm guessing they're going to be probably making some cash out of that then.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't do the deal, but they've just bought Middle-earth Enterprises, so they'll be making money out of that.
I mean, one ring to rule them all, as they say, isn't it? But
one gaming company.
One gaming company to rule them all. Yeah, I was quite sorry. But they were only founded 11 years ago. They haven't been around that long. Yeah, 11 years ago they were founded in Karlstad in Sweden. I'm not even going to try and to pronounce the Swedish name of the chairman of the company. I'm not to do the gentleman I think it's the gentleman or person a disservice. But yeah, but you know, the amount of people there. I mean, so what was it? One of their companies is Coffee Stain Holding, which was like, who the hell are you? And then I realized they make that goat simulator game.
Oh yeah, I know the one you mean. Yep.
You know, you're like, oh yes, which I apparently heard they're making a sequel to that called Goat Simulator 3, which is going to be set in. Well, I'm glad you said that because they haven't. No, there's no Goat Simulator 2.
Okay.
Right. There's Goat Simulator 3, which apparently is going to have 4-player co-op. And given if you've ever played Goat Simulator,
we're so playing that one.
I'm just like, this is the most crazy idea ever. I mean, it's just up there with the most ridiculous concept. But the one that I guess struck out for me, out of all the companies owned, is Gearbox. Given that Gearbox has a special place in my gaming heart with their relationship with Valve, isn't it?
Yeah.
They made, I think they helped develop, didn't they, the original pieces for, was it Blue Shift, Condition Zero, Opposing Force, and they kind of developed out a lot of those off the Counter-Strike fork. So really kind of a lot of history there with Gearbox, isn't it? And Borderlands was the other big games that they did. I never played Borderlands though.
I've not played it, no, but it's very, very, very successful.
I did love. I mean, Opposing Force and Blue Shift. I remember when they came out, I bought them as I think it was a box set of the expansions.
Yeah,
they were good fun. We shouldn't forget though, is they also helped develop the final Duke Nukem Forever, didn't they?
Nukem Forever, yeah. The
game
that took forever to get here.
Yeah, when it turned up, everybody wished it hadn't, including me.
Yeah. But you didn't actually buy it, did you?
I might have done.
Moving swiftly on.
When I was doing the research, I didn't realise that apparently a Borderlands film was made. Did you know this?
Really? No.
Yeah, but it's unreleased. And
okay.
It was screenplay and directed by Eli Roth.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and Kate Blanchett's in it, Jack Black's in it, Jamie Lee Curtis is in it.
They just haven't released it. When was this?
Apparently, it was filmed and ready to roll as of filming commenced last year and finished in June of last year.
Oh, okay.
And apparently, it doesn't, but it hasn't got a release date.
Oh, okay. So it may still be released.
Who knows?
Not like the new Batgirl or Batwoman, or what was it? What's the new one that's been canned?
Was that the Batgirl film, wasn't it?
It was Batgirl. Yeah, they finished that one, but they decided they've shelved it and they're not going to release it.
Yeah, completely utterly, isn't it? It's not going to happen at all, is it? And I think not just not going to happen, it's not even going to be resurrected, is it? I think it's a case of walk away, this didn't happen sort of approach.
Yeah, never mind.
Which is disappointing for all involved. But anyway, that's moving on.
There were a load more other companies. They said they bought 8 in total. So that was Middle-earth Enterprises. We also got Tripwire Interactive, who did Maneater and Killing Floor.
The shark one, that's Maneater, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yep.
Yep.
We got Tuxedo Labs, who are the Swedish studio behind Teardown. I mean, you played this one, didn't you? That's that voxel game where you
game.
where you smash the things down to do the robbery and stuff like that. Yep. They also Sing Tricks, who are a karaoke company formed by the former Guitar Hero developers. Limited Run Games, who are a physical media specialist. I think they kind of make those big fancy game box sets, where you buy the Steel series or whatever they want to call it. We also got Tatsujin, who are a Japanese arcade specialist. Bitwave Games, who make modern retro games. I don't know what they are. And Geotech.
That's quite generic, by the way. That's quite a generic, isn't it?
I know. And Geotech, who are a gaming accessory manufacturer. So I've heard of Geotech. But that's not all. There's apparently another gaming-related acquisition mentioned, but they haven't made it public due to commercial reasons at this time. So maybe next week we'll have an update for a 9th company.
Why would you? Well, I'm trying to think. Why would they not release it? Maybe is that company already releasing something that could,
Or say it's something big coming from this company, so they've just kept it on the down low until that's done.
And they don't want to distract it. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be, but so technically 9 companies.
Yeah, interesting. I tell you, reading through that and a list of it was one of the comments I saw in one of the sites. Somebody mentioned about what is going to happen to Valve, for example, when Gabe Newell steps down. And I kind of read that comment and I thought to myself, that's a really, really good point,
Yeah.
because Valve occupy a really funny place now, don't they, in the games industry, because they're a publisher more than anything else, aren't they? Development is kind of second to it.
Are they a publisher or are they just a platform?
Well, could somebody
They're a
come around?
storefront.
Could somebody come around and swallow them up? That's what I'm saying. You look at all these acquisitions going on, and think of this big Sega ones and all that kind of stuff, and Embracer here clearly spending a lot of money. I don't know. Just it makes me wonder. If you know what I'm saying,
Yeah,
makes me
I
wonder
don't know
what
who would buy them, but
somebody with
I
deep
suppose they make a lot of
pockets.
money, so maybe it's Apple's entrance to the gaming market.
Oh, don't say that. Don't say that. But yeah, I'm definitely interested to know what this big secret announcement is. Like you say, maybe next week we may find out, or it could be
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on
slightly
that one.
longer. Yeah. Okay, then. So moving from games then to Apple. Well, not quite the Apple story you perhaps thought we were going to talk about. That one's coming soon. This
No.
one's a little bit different, isn't it? This is a security issue that Apple have been talking about occurring their VPNs, which, as two
Yes.
people who use VPNs on iOS, this is probably one we're slightly concerned about, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, well, Apple say otherwise, but I would call this a bug in their VPN framework. So basically, when you fire up a kind of full device VPN, all new connections go down the VPN as expected. But currently established connections are still left running outside the tunnel rather than being killed and re-established within the VPN tunnel. So yeah, if you've already got some connections out, HTTP traffic, DNS, they could all potentially leak because they're not being re-established within the tunnel themselves. And apparently, this kind of behavior started since iOS 13. Apple haven't really commented on it. They apparently brought out a fix in iOS 14 via an API call called Include All Networks. And this kind of indicates that the OS should kill those connections, send all traffic via VPN. Doesn't apparently work though.
No, so this has come from, isn't it, a security researcher, Michael Horowitz, in a post that he wrote, isn't it?
Yep.
That he's continued to write. And also, though, this further information has come from Proton, who is a security company who create VPN applications for iOS, and they do other items, mail apps as well. I think Proton Mail. So their argument is that according to Proton, is that as far as they were concerned, they would expect behavior to be that a VPN would kill all the connections, the existing connections, and then, as you say, would reopen that inside the tunnel. But what they noted was that several of those existing connections linger almost, don't they, outside the tunnel. One have been Apple's APNS, or Apple Push Notification Service. And what their argument is that many of these could be unencrypted and could put you at risk.
Yeah,
now,
well,
just to
leaking
pause for a
traffic
second.
outside the tunnel.
Yeah. If it's APNS, though, Apple probably don't want APNS tunneled. And secondly, I'm pretty sure APNS is encrypted anyway, isn't it?
It's true, but you're still potentially therefore giving away your originating IP address. The whole point of a VPN is to shift where you appear to come from.
Yeah. So, I mean, just take a step back. It's, to those that may not be familiar with VPNs, of course, VPNs come in many flavors. You can have full device VPNs that basically route all of your device connections down a VPN tunnel to that VPN gateway or endpoint, isn't it? That could be in the cloud or could be in another location. You could tunnel that back to your infrastructure and go out your own connection, or you could do it. There's also split tunneling as well, isn't there, with VPNs, where you can say that certain traffic goes down a VPN. So that might be that you'll want to gain access
to
certain
applications goes down a VPN. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So, and Apple offer both modes. That's very clear, isn't it?
They do.
You can do that. So, for their part, Apple is saying that this is expected behavior. Isn't that correct?
They are. I mean, they've even gone as far as saying that Apple stated that their traffic being VPN exempt is expected. So Apple's basically saying no traffic to Apple should be going down the VPN. It's VPN exempt, even if you've done a whole device VPN. We'd still expect the Apple traffic to go outside it, which is a bit of a whoa.
That's like this is ours, not yours. Go away, isn't it?
But how far does that Apple traffic go? Are we talking mail? If you're using an Apple hosted email, I'd still expect that to go down a VPN, but Apple says, probably not.
So the testing was done here, wasn't it? So Horowitz isn't working for Proton, just to be clear on that. But
No, he's a separate one. He's the latest person to bring it to light.
Yeah, so in his report, he tested the Proton VPN on an iPad running iOS 15 version 4.1, and as you say, it still had the Apple services running down. Apparently, Proton have got added in a kill switch function, didn't they? That kills all of the open connections, but apparently even that didn't stop it from working.
But
did
is
they?
that this API call? Does it include all networks?
Yeah.
That Apple built with iOS 14, but yeah. Doesn't really work properly. Interestingly, though, the big interesting one to me was so if a device is connected via both Wi-Fi and cellular, then iOS allows both itself and any app that wants to bypass the Wi-Fi connected VPN and send data over the cellular connection.
I guess in some respects, forget the VPN for a moment, that probably is expected behavior, isn't it? Because I suppose it's trying to use whatever is the shortest path.
But if you've got a VPN using the include all networks, so tunnel all track via the VPN, and then you're just letting it go out the cellular because it's a shorter connection, that sounds like a massive, massive flaw to me.
It does. And given that, you probably want to ensure that if you're on wireless, your data is going out the wireless piece rather than...
That's the reason you'd use the VPN and that switch for all traffic.
Well, yeah, it's like...
Not the switch that says some traffic.
Yeah. You do have to question the logic here, but, Apple being Apple is that our way is the highway, our way of the highway, isn't it, really?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's taken years, but Apple's final response was this behavior you were seeing as expected.
Yeah, and we're not going to fix this, given, and clearly this is going to persist in iOS 16. If it's in 15.5, I'm not suggesting it's going to be anywhere else.
No.
It is interesting because, the was it Ars Technica who kind of published a lot of these findings. They've asked Apple, haven't they, and OpenVPN for additional comments as well. And I thought what was really funny though was that the security researcher Horowitz, his solution was to basically buy a dedicated VPN router.
Yeah, that's
which is like,
I mean, there is a workaround. Okay. Apparently, if you connect to the VPN server, turn on airplane mode, then turn it off, that's basically forcing all the connections to reset, and they should all come down the tunnel. But as Apple has stated, maybe not. So yeah, his response was buy a separate one and use that to send the VPN traffic. But then you still got the problem if you're on the Wi-Fi and it decides to send it via cellular, unless you turn the cellular off. I suppose you've got to turn the cellular off, haven't you, and just have the Wi-Fi connection to the separate VPN router.
The VPNs are a huge minefield because there's a big thing is a lot of people want to use VPNs. A lot of people want to do it to ensure protection and security when outside of their home environment, especially from, let's say, journalists are a good example there, aren't they? And other people. Some people want to circumvent streaming services, and the other concern, though, I guess, for a lot of VPNs or people who use VPNs is some of them claim to not store logs, don't they? Some of them claim not to, provide privacy, but they don't. And who owns the data? Who's actually sniffing that data? So is using a VPN actually just a false positive? False security. Some of them, I think it is, isn't it? Given that you don't actually know where your data's going and where it's been stored. You and I are kind of running a long-term test at the moment on Tailscale, aren't we? Which is
we are,
a VPN service, which is very new, isn't it? Which is being opened up. Which kind of
WireGuard, doesn't it? And it's but you host the infrastructure yourself, though it does have a front end for authentication. It's hosted by the company. But yeah, I mean, we're using our way mainly to access our home network when we're out of the home, and it seems to work very well for that.
I mean, and to be honest with you, you don't. I mean, in theory, you don't actually need to use the component pieces that we're running. It can be serverless, can't it? And it can always be on. It scales amazingly if you want to pay for it. We like to say we're using single sign-on with our one of our accounts for another provider, aren't we? For ID. It does subnet routing. It does local DNS. You and I say we have built infrastructure, but those infrastructure aren't full servers; they're containers. That we've got running our environment. So if you can be done, if you want to, but there are other providers out there. Again, it's entirely whatever your choice is and what your appetite for either rolling your own or running with the pack, as it were, isn't it? I guess in that sense. But yeah, iOS VPN. I mean, ironically, I had problems with the VPN today, didn't I? I was trying to fix a VPN problem myself today, bizarrely, and I'm not suggesting that was was anything to do with Apple, that they had something wrong, but just given that when you look at the split tunneling, that was the problem I had earlier. So I'm interested to see whether or not how Tailscale comes up here. I suspect it's going to have the same problems as Proton and
it's not something that a VPN provider can fix.
No, this is an OS level issue, isn't it? Completely, utterly.
Yep.
But yeah, so, this is definitely not going to go away then for iOS 16. But yeah, be interested to see if anybody else comes back and says that there's a vulnerability here, or they detect any issues from it. But it may just be a engineering flaw.
He didn't have a chance to test that. Apparently, if you're using MDM, there is a switch there that actually works and forces all the traffic.
Oh, okay, that's good to know.
So, but I've not tried deploying the VPN via MDM yet, and he didn't either. He said it was outside his remit. He didn't really understand it, but apparently, other people said using that switch did actually effectively kill all the traffic and force it. But that's not available to home users.
No, I'm afraid you can't have that. No, sorry,
no,
for you.
No, not at all.
In our old job, we would definitely have had that, wouldn't we? But not here.
Yep, not now.
Not now. Okay, talking of Apple then, let's talk about the one story that everybody expects us to talk about, which is the upcoming Apple iPhone 14 event, which, according to reports now then, is slated for the 7th of September. Yes. Which, if we believe the rumours, which are coming from Bloomberg, particularly Mark Gurman, and corroborated, aren't they, by Ming-Chi Kuo, I believe, the suggestion is that
now back this up.
Yeah, and apparently there are unconfirmed reports from Apple retail employees that there is going to be a major product release on September the 16th. So taking all of that into kind of account, the logic is that there is going to be an iPhone event on or around the 7th of September. Now, this is a Wednesday, which makes it kind of unusual because Apple typically run events on a Tuesday.
They do, yeah.
But the Monday the 5th is Labor Day in the United States, so it's a public holiday. So I guess running it on the Wednesday means that anybody that's on having a long weekend gives them a day to clear themselves, isn't it, to come back to work, I suppose. Is that kind of the way to look at it? Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. So it's a bit of an odd one being on the Wednesday, but multiple sources are now confirming it will be the Wednesday. And so we were a bit dubious, but look, we'll find out probably then on 1st of September. They usually give you a week's notice. So yeah, we should know within a week or so.
Yeah, definitely. I am really looking forward to this. And, you and I have been talking about the iPhone 14, kind of the different colors we've seen. There is there is a purple one already today, isn't there, with the 13. That was one of the colors they released. I love that. They released it after the event. Do you remember a couple of months later, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I really hope they bring a 14 Pro Max out in that purple because I want that. Whether or not it'll be a pro color, because that's the weird thing. The pro colors seem so boring, don't they?
I think it'll be a darker purple if it's a pro one, which actually I'd quite like.
It can't be no worse than that horrible green one we had a couple of years ago.
I like the green one. Actually, my wife has the 13 Pro Max in the green for that one, and she likes it.
I mean, I've got 12 Pro Max here with the gold and the white.
Oh, yeah, you went gold, didn't you?
Yeah, I went blue. But it's not gold, is it? Because it's gold banded, but the back is white, and all the accenting around the cameras is gold. But it's not, not what I call a gold phone. I am keen to upgrade. I'm ready now, like you are. We skipped a year, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
Because of the situation. I have got some issues with my 12 Pro Max. I have got a screen issue that is going to get worse. If you imagine if you're holding it in your right hand with your thumb kind of hovering over that bottom quadrant of the screen, the right quadrant, I seem to have a real issue with anything the screen responding to touches in that area.
Oh, really? Oh, mine's been okay, touchwood so far.
So I don't know what is going on there, and it is driving me nuts. Because it just, you clean the screen, it goes away. I don't know. It's just small things that are really bugging me,
Yeah.
But generally speaking, I having had a new phone for the last how many years, skipping for a year, I'm no worse off, to be honest with you. The only thing
No.
I kind of missed, I think, is the macro mode. It was on the 13. I
Yeah.
kind of wish I'd had that, but I've certainly not had anybody show me any real driver to have that camera mode. What was it? The focus mode. Where it's cinematic focus, where it swaps between.
Oh, yeah.
I've not had anybody convince me yet that was a real selling point.
No, exactly. And you know what? I don't know how much different the 14s are going to be. We're allegedly getting the new pill and dot whatever at the top, rather than the oh, my words have escaped me.
Rather than the notch.
Rather than the notch, yes, exactly. And improved cameras, meant to be getting out a 48 megapixel camera. The big one for me is probably going to be the always on display, if we actually see that. But it's still not a massive jump up. But I suppose if we're going 2 generations, it will seem quite different to me. But also, I want to get rid of my 12 Pro while it's still worth quite a bit of money. And it's in good condition, so why not?
Well, and given that we've just completed the iPhone upgrade program as well as of today, haven't we? So
well, I got my letter today. Yeah,
same as we both got those at the same time, which I thought was quite funny. So we are the proud owners of an iPhone 12 Plus Pro Max, both in good condition. What I said earlier about the screen, you didn't hear that. If you'd like to purchase the said phones, do contact us at the usual address. We will arrange arrange that for you. But yeah, I think there's still residual value in the 12 Pro Max, but we are getting close to that point where that residual value is going to drop. The rumors are, though, with the 14 Pro, is that the pricing could be higher, isn't it? That's the thing.
But then I've also had the rumor that they're going to drop the 128, so the base will be 256. So it's not really going up in price.
No, and actually, given what you and I were talking about offline, it's about time Apple dropped 128 as a base for the Pro model anyway, isn't it?
It is, and so 256 will do me fine.
Given that before they had even 32 gigs, so on a kind of a tangent, I was sorting out some phones for my in-laws, and they've both got the Generation 1 iPhone SEs, which have got 32 gig of storage.
Oh, yeah. It's a tricky one. My daughter's got a 7 Plus, I think, with 32 gig, so it's tight.
Yeah, it's not a good place to be. But yeah, that's an upgrade issue I've got next. But yeah, so we'll see. We'll know by next week whether or not it is probably likely. Invitations probably will not go out until maybe the end of next week, or at least by the Monday.
September, I reckon. Yeah.
Yeah. But we should probably have a good idea of when that's going to happen. So maybe by the end of next show next week. If not, that is very likely then if the event does run on the 7th. 2 shows time will be our annual iPhone special event show. So listen out for that. We'll have all of the upgrades. Yes, we'll have all of the upgrades. We'll have all of the updates on that.
But it may be a different time though, as you are traveling.
Well, I will be on Pacific time. I will be in the United States if the event.
Are you just waiting for your personal invite? Then are you?
Well, I didn't get. Yeah, well, I had the. Unfortunately, I didn't get the WWDC one, even though I was just down the road. And this time, I'm on PST
just show
time
up and act like you're meant to be there.
I mean, I'm a shareholder. I mean, surely should that get me in? I don't know.
Gets you a ticket, surely.
Definitely. Right. Well, in the words of was it Monty Python? Here's time for something completely different. Are you a fan of Janet Jackson?
No. She's okay. I mean, it wouldn't be my first go-to listen to music.
No, I be honest with you, I couldn't tell you any Janet Jackson songs off the top of my head until this.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, it turns out if you have a copy of Janet Jackson's hit from 1989 called Rhythm Nation, that is now classified as a weapon. Yes, I am not talking out of my rear end. It has been categorized by the MITRE Corporation to add it to the list of CVEs, which are common vulnerabilities and exposures.
Yep.
Under CVE-2022-38393, and has been acknowledged by security company Tenable as a vulnerability if you play. This is brilliant.
Yep.
If you play Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation music video on a laptop with a 5400 RPM drive from certain OEM vendors, it will destroy, or it will cause the drive to malfunction and crash.
It will, yeah. It's something to do with the resonant frequencies for that particular specific model of 5400 RPM laptop hard drive. Now, they haven't mentioned which make and model, but I'm going to guess this really isn't going to affect many people. One, because they're probably not listening to Janet Jackson's thing on their laptop. But two, new laptops don't really come with spinning rust, hard disk drives anymore. They're more like SSDs. And if they do come with a hard drive, they're not like to be the slow old 5400 RPM ones. But still, quite a funny one, really.
I mean, reading some of the notes about this, so Microsoft published, there was a dev blog from Microsoft where somebody shared the story, and apparently this was this apparently stems from several years back, doesn't it? From Windows XP.
It does, yeah.
So it turns out that when a certain computer manufacturer who hasn't been named was testing laptops, they had competitors' laptops in a lab. Somehow, it's not specified why or how, but they were playing the Rhythm Nation song, weren't they? Or the music video, I should say, and discovered that it crashed certain models of laptops.
Not just the laptop that's playing it, potentially laptops that are close to it as well.
Yeah, that's that's unbelievable. How do you discover that? It's like you said, why? Apparently they did have a workaround because they put a custom filter apparently in the audio pipelines that detected and removed certain frequencies during audio feedback. But I mean, look, I guess this is just an example of it. But there are ways. Resonance frequency is been used as a weapon. It's been people use frequencies as weapons all the time, don't they? There is acknowledged weapons or sound weapons that have been used by certain nations. They are apparently against the Geneva Convention, so I don't know whether this crosses. I'm not entirely sure whether this crosses boundaries because acoustic weapons. It's
going to be on an international wanted list at some point soon.
Yeah, a sonic weapon, an acoustic weapon, could be that. Certain things. The U.S. Navy has them on certain ships. They used to, I guess, dispel people from coming near things. Some police forces have used sound cannons in riots. Again, I don't think it's particularly. Condoned, and apparently, but it's never been proven that sound attacks may have happened at the American Embassy in Cuba in 2016, 2017.
I remember that one now.
Do you remember that? They called it Havana Syndrome.
That's the one.
Maybe they were projecting, Janet Jackson through the walls. Who knows?
It was just Janet Jackson.
I always thought the deal was that you played heavy, like full-on thrash metal at loudspeakers. Isn't that what the films always showed, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
But I just, it's just funny. But yeah, definitely one that was weird. And the fact, when did Windows XP, for God's sake? I mean, Windows XP came out in 2001. So this is clearly something that's happened maybe close to 20 years ago, isn't it? Really?
Maybe, yeah, I think so. So you're probably all safe.
That being said, they do not specify which laptop hard drives that are in there. So spinning rust, just to be on the safe side, don't play Rhythm Nation by Janet Jackson. All right. Well, back off that weird tangent. Let's talk about another chip company then, and this particular one being Pulsic, who I'm going to be really upfront with you. Until I was reading our notes and read the stories this week, I didn't know who Pulsic were, but apparently we're not selling them. That being, in the UK at least.
Wasn't the CMA either, was it? It was the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. So they blocked the sale of Pulsic, who were going to be sold to a company called Super Orange HK Holdings Limited, but they've blocked it under the National Security and Investment Act 2021. Now, digging here, but Pulsic, apparently they're an electronic design automation company that makes kind of floor planning, placement, and routing tools that are used in the design and development of circuit layouts for chips.
Okay.
But yeah, so Bloomberg did some digging into this Super Orange HK Holdings Ltd. And while they are a Hong Kong company, hence the HK, it was only founded last year by a company called Nanjing Puxin Software, which in turn appears to be wholly owned by Shanghai Univista Industry Software, who are a company backed by the Chinese National Integrated Circuit Industry. So all the roots all the way back to China.
Well. I mean, you could, I guess, you could read this in a cynical approach, couldn't you? And think, well, what's going on here? I mean, it could be completely innocent, but the government clearly don't think so, and the National Security and Investment Act is a brand new piece of legislation that's only been in force since January 2022.
Yeah.
So this is something, you know, it's clearly got teeth, isn't it? They're wanting that, but it turns out that's not the only tech companies that they are looking at the moment. Is it as such? So we've got, you know, BT being investigated, or sorry, a French telco being investigated because they're looking to purchase additional shares in BT.
Yep.
We've got a Fab Wafer in Wales, who I think Sony have got a large. I'm sure Sony have got quite a piece in that, haven't they? The one in Newport. So that's also been investigated as well, because there is another Dutch company that in turn is owned by a Chinese corporation. Again, is looking to take purchase of that as well. So it is, and then the other one is now the one that kind of, I guess, the curveball here is that reportedly this could be used to stop SoftBank listing arm of the stock exchange, isn't it?
Exactly, and forcing them to do it on the London Stock Exchange.
Yeah.
We'll see how that one goes.
I don't know what the legality of that is. I'm guessing, you know, SoftBank would probably want to take that one all the way to the court, maybe, for that. I don't know.
I think so. Yeah, I'd imagine so.
But yeah, definitely this bit of legislation, I think, is we're going to see more and more now going forward. But
definitely,
it does make you wonder with Polsig, like I say, what the roots are here. I mean, it could be seen, like you say, that this could be just a business deal, or actually it could be seen as China trying to get a foothold in some of these operations, especially around the chip manufacturer. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
That being said, then let's talk about Bitcoin. You know, because of course we've got loads of it, haven't we?
Our favorite crypto. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, so it seems hackers have managed to steal some crypto or Bitcoin from Bitcoin ATMs manufactured by a company called General Bytes using a zero-day vulnerability. Having read the vulnerability, I'm not sure it's 0 day and it's more incompetence or piss-poor security design, as we like to call it. So basically, these are these coins, these machines, like cash machines, but you can send Bitcoin to them or other crypto and they give you real money out. So it's fairly anonymous. That's the whole idea of them. Anyway, these machines...
But is it really?
Depends if they keep logging, doesn't it, I suppose? But... I don't know. I don't know how it really works. I think you send the Bitcoin to the address and the service gives you a code you can pop in and get the stuff out. So if you have to register an account, I suppose it could be fairly anonymous. But
minus your transaction fee, I'm sure, as well.
Of course. But these machines can all be kind of centrally managed and controlled, upgraded, etc., by a piece of software called the Crypto Application Server, or CAS for short. And this is where the problem lies. So when you get these machines, each customer would be basically giving their own instance of this CAS in a cloud hosted provider, which happens to be DigitalOcean. Now, obviously, you've installed software before, server software. Generally, when you do that, and it's controlled by a web interface, the first screen you ever see is the one where you create that admin user and password.
So, not again.
Yep. So far, so standard. This is a pretty thing. But what usually happens after you create that admin user and password? The default redirect is removed, and some mechanisms are usually put in place to stop that page being used again. That could be, for example, deleting the page. So, yeah. Well, it seems that General Bytes forgot to do the second part. So the page was still available and still able to create admin users. So you can see where this is going. So anyway, some attackers found this. They started scanning DigitalOcean's IP range for any of these CAS services running on the designated ports, 7777 or 443, then creating admin users and the passwords, and basically they're in now. The attackers then went on to modify the machine so that when someone sent crypto to the machine for withdrawal, it was in fact forwarded or rerouted to the attacker's crypto wallet instead.
I mean, not the most elegant, but certainly effective.
Yeah,
you can't really fault them on that point, can you? I mean, they've done a good job there in that sense of.
It wasn't a particularly hard vulnerability to leverage, was it?
No, and you know what? I'm not condoning it at all. But you got to just well, you know what? It was there. They've exposed it and they've used it, and actually, given the flaw there, it's pretty poor on, isn't it? That it wasn't picked up.
It is. Now we don't know how much money they got away with. That's not been announced. But however, you'll be glad to know the company has emphasised it's conducted multiple security audits since 2020, and that these shortcomings were never identified. Adding that the attack occurred 3 days after it publicly announced a Help Ukraine feature on its ATMs. I don't know if they're trying to throw the scent here away from their incompetence, but whoever did their security audits should be fired because they clearly weren't very good.
We've heard it all before, isn't it? We've heard it every time of like, we've done a great audit, we found this stuff. The reality is it's rubbish. It's just
it is. I'm waiting for the one with Plex because obviously you got an email this morning. I got an email this morning. Troy Hunt got an email this morning. A lot of people got emails this morning from Plex saying that they'd been, they found, unusual activity on one of their database servers and basically reset all your passwords.
Yes, I'm not going to go down that road of how much stress that caused this morning. But yes, it was definitely rather annoying to see that. Thankfully, I don't have a Plex Pass. I know you do.
I do. And it runs my entire house. All the TVs have links into Plex for everything. It was a pain.
It was still rather frustrating to have that one anyway. But yes, let's hope that it wasn't a breach. But thankfully, I don't have any credentials with them beyond the ability to log in. Yeah, frustrating. That's all I'll say. I'm sure you'll agree with that point. So, given the fact that I tried, then I couldn't re-add my Apple TV Plex applications back in because they were getting so hammered, weren't they? The servers.
Yep. And once you get the server back online and authenticated,
So the Plex boxes, the Apple TVs, I haven't had a chance to check on them yet, so I need to do that. But that's the job for later.
Yep.
Right. So let's move on. A couple of stories before we wrap up for today then. So Apple Car. Well, Apple Car is probably the most closely guarded secret that Apple have at the moment. There are many open... Well, no longer. So many open rumors, aren't they, that, they are working on a car, there is information about the car, but nobody's seen the car, but lots of people have been hired to work on said application. However, a certain individual has now pleaded guilty to stealing trade secrets from Apple whilst he worked on the project for 3 years between 2015 and 2018.
Yeah.
And it turns out that when he left this role at Apple, he was going to work for Guangzhou Xipeng Motors Technology, which is a Chinese EV startup known as XPeng. So I'm guessing that's how
XPeng. Let's go with that one because it's much easier. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce the individual's name.
No. And turns out he didn't just steal a few documents here or there, did he? Transferred, according to Apple, he transferred 24 gig of what was classed as highly problematic data to his wife's laptop via AirDrop. Of course, AirDrop. No USBs here, my friends. But he's pleaded guilty, hasn't he?
It wasn't just that. He also took circuit boards and a server from the company's autonomous vehicle lab. So not just the whole server.
Sorry, that was sorry. I meant to say, how do you just walk out with a server?
Well, it's an Apple server. It's probably a Mac Mini, so just in your bag.
Yeah, but how does nobody notice that's missing? That's the bit I'm asking. But how does nobody notice that was missing? It's okay. It's all right. Carl took the server home. Sorry, Carl did what?
Just want to do some work at night time. Needed the server. He'll be back tomorrow. Honest.
Or even better though, you click on, you go to maybe there's a share or something or an application. And you're like, that doesn't seem to be working anymore. No, that's because it doesn't exist anymore, is it?
No, but apparently he admitted that he was guilty. He pleaded guilty. Sentencing is scheduled for November the 14th, and he could basically face up to 10 years in prison and $250,000 fine. Doesn't end there though.
No,
this isn't the first time someone has stolen or attempted to steal trade secrets for XPeng. So back in 2019, another former Apple employee was charged with trying to smuggle manuals, schematics, diagrams, and photographs from Apple's car project. That case is still ongoing. And also Tesla have claimed that a former employee had uploaded source code relating to its autopilot system to his iCloud account and then took this information to XPeng. Now, XPeng respects any third-party intellectual property rights and confidential information, they say.
Of course they do.
What you say and what's happening look very different.
Yeah, I was just saying you might have that, but actually you're probably very happy to have. Oh, look, this stuff is really good. Where did you get it from? Oh, no, actually, we didn't ask that. Let's not worry about it. yeah, and also this company Xpeng, they're backed by Alibaba.
How are they?
Yeah, so they're backed by Alibaba apparently as one of their funding partners, and they've been around since 2014. And they've the company was formed shortly after a company called UC Web, which was the Xipeng mobile browsing business, was acquired by Alibaba. So they've obviously bought into them, and then, excuse me, which was apparently one of the largest mergers in the country's history at the time.
Oh wow!
Which was around 350 million, I think was. Sorry, the funding round was about 350 million after that. So it was quite impressive to see how much money. But yeah, you can't help but kind of have a worry of what's been going on here, is it? I mean, let's be honest. I'm surprised he stole any data at all, given that this supposed, Apple Car just doesn't seem to exist. But yeah.
But they're saying if it doesn't exist, why are Apple suing people for it, or taking them to court, or whatever? Prosecuting. That's probably the right word.
That is a very valid point. Yeah, who knows?
So they are doing something. Whether we'll ever find what it is, whether it'll actually be a product. The rumors still are 2025 that Apple are going to do something car related.
No, and I mean, just to be clear, there's nothing to suggest here that Mr. Zhang is, spying for Xpeng, or he is spying for the Chinese government. Nothing. I don't think that's been alleged either way, is it?
No, it's just a number of coincidences.
This is industrial espionage in the grandest form, don't you think?
It is, definitely.
Okay, then. Right, let's talk about gaming then. So, PlayStation VR2. So, according to Sony, PlayStation VR2 is coming, and early 2023. So, let's say first half of 23. Then, should we say?
Yeah, first 3 months or 6 months. There we go. Yeah, and so they already announced the headset last year, didn't they? They even gave us specifications, and it looks pretty impressive. We're getting OLED displays that can do up to 4K resolution, or both eyes combined, anyway. Between 90 and 120 hertz screens, 110 degrees field of view, forwarded rendering, which is the one where it renders the bit you're looking at. So it's obviously doing eye tracking. It'll render the bit you're looking at in higher detail than the bits that you're not looking at. Basically making it a more high-def experience without using more CPU or GPU grunt. It's going to have inside-out tracking, be a single USB cable. They even got to say it'll have 20 games at launch. But what they haven't said is the price. And that's going to be it's going to be the kicker, isn't it? I don't know. This sounds like a really high-end headset.
It does sound like a really high-end headset. So yeah, as you say, very impressive there. They said they're going to have a lineup of around 20 they call major games on release, which will include Walking Dead franchises, Horizon, and apparently new VR versions of No Man's Sky and Resident Evil Village as well. So apparently, unlike the other thing I did note, though, unlike the last version of the PlayStation headset, there's going to be no camera on the console to track movements.
So it's using inside-out tracking.
Yeah, the Quest 2 system, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
And apparently, if you do have a HD camera connected to your PS5, you can broadcast yourself playing the games.
Broadcast yourself looking like an idiot.
Possibly so. But I mean, the pictures, the renderings look pretty sweet, don't they? The kind of orb-shaped hand controllers look very slick. You say single cable coming out the left-hand side of the headset. I mean, you can tell it looks like PlayStation VR. The shape is similar to the last generation. Those Oculus-style sensors on the front there, aren't they? Gives a kind of a feel to it. But
cameras as well, so you'll be able to do the through-look stuff where you can see what's going on outside. Whether they'll be color or black and white like the Quest 2, I don't know.
So I'm guessing then early 2023 there'll be 5 units available then, yeah?
Yeah, it'll be sold out at that point. But I don't know this price though. So the original PlayStation VR sold at $400. So are we going to see them coming at that? That seems a bit cheap for the quality of alleged quality of headset. Or are we going to see them making a loss on these, like Facebook did with the Quest?
I don't know whether there'll be a loss on it. I think they'll be close. I think obviously there'll be inflation pricing, but I don't know whether or not there'll be a loss on it. Sony are going to want to make a return. But yeah,
if you go more than $400, you're going more than the cost of the PlayStation 5. That's going to be a hard line for a lot of people to buy into. That's only more an accessory for a PlayStation 5 than my PlayStation 5.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, it'd be interesting to see where the pricing is. What made me smile though, when you think about the pricing, like you say there, of it. Do you remember? Do you remember the early VR stuff that came out? So back I don't know if you saw this. So one of the first commercial VR systems was a product called Virtuality. Came out in 1991. Yeah, it was powered by an Amiga 3000.
Right. Yeah.
And that had a resolution of 276 times 372 at 20 hertz.
20 hertz. Oh, that would have been silky smooth.
And cost in the region of 60 grand.
Oh, and my Amiga 3000 was not going to be cheap either.
So you're saying here, the pricing we're saying, right, let's say 500 mark, aren't we? Yeah. You've got there, as you say, potentially 4K resolution at 120 hertz.
Yeah.
For 500,
Yeah. They're aiming at consumer. That original one was not consumer, was it? That was very much
it had
commercial.
Games. I mean, yes and no. It had games. So, I mean, there were two models. There were games. There were jump jet simulators. There was a dog fighting. There was puzzle adventures. I mean, granted, it wasn't quite it wasn't quite what we'd have today, is it? But
no.
I mean, I always think of. Do you remember the Sega VR ones? Where you stood in the kind of.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, but they were. I don't know how much they cost.
See, I think if these come in at, let's say, $400, okay, and I can hook this to a PC, here's our next headset.
Yeah, maybe.
You can hook up the original PlayStation VR to a PC. I reckon someone will find a way. If I can get a subsidized headset that isn't a Facebook-owned one, I'll call that a win.
Yeah, I am. Maybe so. Maybe it's a win. I'm still leaning, I think, coming to like the Reverb or Vive. I think that would be either where I'd like to be.
Yeah, I'll see next year. Maybe there'll be a Reverb G3 at that point.
Yeah, I think, and then the G2 might be an affordable upgrade from the Quest.
Yeah.
Or the Rift, sorry, I should say. But yeah, I mean, but Sony, I think Sony will position this at a well point. And let's be honest, from a commercial standpoint, Sony did very well with PlayStation VR Gen 1.
They did,
it's very likely that the same's going to be handled here. Awesome. Well, let's wrap up then for today with the Tech Rumor. And, well, we've talked a bit about the iPhone 14, but we should then talk about the M2 Pro and the M2 Max, which, of course, like the day is long, will be coming soon. And in the words of John Prosser, it will be smaller, more powerful, like a buff chihuahua. What a tagline. I mean, that's brilliant.
He does like his taglines, doesn't he? But yeah, there's this rumor or fact, what we're going to call it, is coming out of Taiwan's Commercial Times, and they're basically reporting that TSMC are going to start their production in September of the 3nm silicon for Apple's upcoming M2 Pro and M2 Max chips. And these will, of course, be going into updated 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pros. Expected at the end of the year, allegedly.
So what we're saying then, potentially then, we're going to see the Pro and the MacBook Pro launch probably October then. Announced in October.
End of the year. Is that a December event? I don't think, have we had a December event before?
No, I would be tempted more that they might do it late October, make it a November availability.
November? Out in time for Christmas?
Possibly.
But yeah, that's all the kind of information. He didn't give us much information other than the starting production. It's allegedly for the M2 Pro Max chips.
So along with that is that Mark Gurman from Bloomberg, he also thinks, and isn't it, unsurprisingly, we'll get the 14, 16-inch combo of a MacBook Pro, and he reckons as well we will get the upgraded Mac Mini with the Pro chip as well.
Does, yes.
I don't recall. I didn't. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my memory's escaping me. But we didn't get a Mac Mini with the M1 Pro, did we?
No, we did not. No. We got a Studio.
We got the Studio. We got the Studio, and we got the M1 production chip, didn't we? In it, yeah. I personally, I'm in this, and unless they kill the Studio, my view is I think the high-end Mac Minis are not going to happen.
No, I think we'll get an M2 Mini, but just the M2, not the Pro or the Max.
No, I think you'll get M2 Mini where you can take it up to maybe 32 gig, or you can, but I think they would cannibalize the Studio sales by doing a high-end one.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, in that case, then, it's probably a good place for us to wrap up today, then.
Yep.
Of course, you can find us online at techrant.online, and all of our show notes are at. You can find us online at techrant.online for all of our show notes, and we're on Twitter at Weekly Techrant. We will be back next week for episode 101. So please, tell your friends about us, give us a like.
102.
Yes. I can't count. Well done, Carl. Thank you for that. That's why you're here. Episode 102. Sorry, yes, where we'll hopefully have the latest updates on the Apple TV show. Well, it is the Apple TV show, isn't it? Let's be honest. It's not Apple Live Show anymore, is it? The Apple iPhone production. Also, maybe we might have release on when iOS 16 may be released, because we are now into beta 7. So the weekly drops continue. But we'll be back, as I say, with all of the latest tech news before then. I've been Jay.
I've been Carl. Have a good one, everyone.